Hi everyone, this is Yana Smakula, and thank you for stopping by. Today I thought I would share a masculine Christmas card. I've already made a ton of holiday cards and I've shared many of them here on YouTube or on my blog, but I haven't really shared any that are great for guys. Masculine cards are usually very hard to make. I struggle with them often, but the new products from Simon Says Stamp Believe collection that came out today really simplify this task and make it much easier to create holiday cards for guys. I have links to all of these new products below in my video description and also on my blog in case you want to check them out. Not all of them are great for guys, but these particular, the two that I'm using today, are fantastic. So here I have two stamp sets that I'll be using for my project. Both are new from the Believe release. The first one, the clear set, is called Magical Christmas, and it has those beautiful deer and bear silhouettes with the embedded text. To me, these just scream masculine cards. The other stamp, the large background one, is called Circle Doodle Background, and it looks like a wall made out of wood slices. I don't know if it was intended to look like this or not, but that's what it looks like to me. I'm going to heat emboss this circle doodle background onto a sheet of watercolor paper in Simon's Antique Gold embossing pattern and do some simple watercoloring. Now I'm going to use the medium-sized Misty for my stamping. I recently got this new toy and I couldn't be happier because I can now mount my 6x6 cling background stamps in the Misty and double stamp with these cling stamps. I'm a bit obsessed with double stamping these days, so this medium-sized Misty is perfect for this. And I couldn't mount these particular stamps in the smaller Misty because they don't fit in there, they're too big. So I'm going to peel off the clear plastic that the cling surface of the stamp sticks to, and we'll stick the stamp onto the door of my Misty. By the way, the design on the cover of this stamp indicates that the image doesn't go all the way to the edge and that there is a border around it. There isn't a border. It's a full 6x6 background stamp with no border whatsoever. After I mounted my stamp, I realized I had no way to hold the paper in place if I were to use magnets, as the paper was cut smaller than my stamp. So instead, I moved it away from the left-hand side edge and taped it in place using washi tape strips. My panel was cut larger than an A2 card front, so it wasn't a problem that I had taped the edges slightly. I forgot to mention that I took out the black foam pad from the inside of my Misty. You need to do that to be able to stamp with the cling stamps. If you're stamping with the regular stamps, you don't have to do that. And I also treated my paper with an anti-static powder tool to keep my embossing nice and clean. So I'm using Simon's embossing ink pad and going to ink up my stamp and stamp it twice onto this paper. This is watercolor paper and it has some texture to it, so using a Misty stamping tool makes the stamped impression a little better because I can double stamp for one and press down really nicely without the fear of sliding my stamp or ruining the stamped impression. But if you don't have the Misty, you can still stamp with these images and have great results. So like I said, I'm going to heat emboss this using Simon's Antique Gold embossing pattern. I really like this particular color. It is a nice step away from the more traditional gold, although you can by all means use the gold color if you like. I'm going to preheat my Hero Arts heat tool, and we'll go ahead and melt the powder. My stamping still wasn't 100% perfect due to that texture, and I did miss a few spots there in the center. But that didn't bother me. I knew I'd be placing a stamped and die-cut deer in the center of this card so that it would cover the imperfection. If you do miss a spot and would like to fix it, you can always use a Versamarker for this. To color my images, I went with Derwent Inktense watercolor pencils, and I selected several colors. Now I have the 36 pack of pencils, plus I purchased a few colors separately. So the colors I used here are 1920 Madder Brown, 1910 Red Oxide, 1800 Baked Earth, 1900 Willow, 1740 Saddle Brown, and I also used 2000 Bark, and I'm not showing this particular color here. Now, it took me a while to figure out how to color these circles to make them look like slices of wood. I finally went to Pinterest and looked up wood slices, and that helped me to realize that I needed to add a lot of color on the outside of the circles and blend it towards the center to have these centers as light as possible. So the first couple of circles is where my trial and error happened. You can see that those aren't exactly pretty or look like wood slices at all, but this is what's fun about this. I get to play and learn. So when I got to my third circle, I finally realized that I needed to add color to the outer ring and blend it from there. You can see I added a very heavy layer of pigment onto the outside slice or the outside ring, and then worked the color out or in towards the center using a water brush. Once I had figured out the process, I colored about 3 slices using the same color. I didn't want these to look all the same, so this is why I went with different colors. The coloring process took quite a bit of time. I think I ended up coloring for about 30 or maybe even 40 minutes, but I really enjoyed it and loved the final piece. I think this is truly a wonderful background stamp, and it can be used not just for masculine cards, but obviously it is fantastic for creating cards for guys. After my background was done, I grabbed my mini Misty and a sheet of white cardstock, and I stamped the other images I wanted to use on my card. So I stamped the deer silhouette using Simon's dark chocolate ink, and I double stamped this image. And also the sentiment banner, and for that one I use Merlot. This is a new color of ink from Simon Says Stamp that came out with this release together with the stamps, and it's a beautiful one. Again, I think it's perfect for masculine cards. I first double stamped the sentiment banner, but after the ink had time to absorb into the paper, the sentiment on the banner got lost, so I ended up stamping the banner again, just once this time, and that worked much better for that particular image. I used coordinating dies and cut those images out in my die cutting machine. I wanted to foam mount the deer onto my card, but instead of using foam adhesive, I used Fun Foam in white and die cut the deer shape again. I added adhesive to both sides of my Fun Foam before cutting it to make it sticky, and therefore made it much easier to adhere onto the card. I also trimmed my panel to an A2 card size, so to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, and adhered it onto a craft card base. I foam mounted my deer on top and also foam mounted the banner going across the deer. I added a black foam square in the middle of the banner and one on each of the ends so that it would end up being bowed on the card. Lastly, I adhered several small and medium droplets from Pretty Pink Posh, and that finished my card. My little masculine Christmas card is ready. So here's a closer look at this card, created using Simon Says Stamp products from the Believe collection. I have links to all the supplies I used to create this card down below in the video description and also on my blog if you want to check them out. Here are a few additional videos on my YouTube channel that you might find interesting. Feel free to check them out. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye!